you here. Little Corey in the background here. She is seriously the noisiest baby I've ever had. So if you hear just little rumblings and grumblings coming off screen, it's just Corey, who has her first cold ever at about 9 weeks. Just a little bit of a runny nose and no fever or anything. But it's making her extra, extra noisy. So you'll have a little soundtrack going on off screen. I just want you to know what it is. Today, I have it on my heart to share with you something kind of personal. It's going on in my life, but I'm going to be discreet because this does, it's available on YouTube and on my personal profile as well. So I'm just going to be discreet because it's kind of a family topic, as well as just a broad topic that applies to big family moms, is when you feel like you get no breaks. And I know, like, realistically, I get a break when I sleep, but sometimes it can come crashing in. So, recent example from my life as a big family mom. So, over the past couple of years, I have lost the two key babysitters that used to help me out with my kids on a semi-regular basis. Both of them ended up being like the grandmas, I'm just being totally honest. So if a family member happens to catch this and you know me very personally, me and candidate, without getting into details, one just had to do with the relocation. Somebody moved several hours away, and hey, that happens, right? We don't always conveniently live in like the same neighborhood. And the other one was a complete relationship breakdown, which I hope and pray will resolve. However, I'm not necessarily holding my breath, because there's, what do you do in the meantime as a big family mom? And you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 kids. And I used to have like a once every couple of weeks kind of break, or if I had to go to an appointment, or if we just had like a regular little, couple of the I want to call them noisy kids, the kids who are not quite at the upper end of school. So I'll just be specific. So I used to do this routine where I'd have twice a month, every Thursday, 3 of my kids who are toilet trained, but not really in like full-time school. So that would be the 4, 6, and 8-year-old, or like the 5, 7, and 9-year-old. And they're what I call the noisy kids, because my older kids who are now, 13 plus, they're very independent with their learning, and I do mostly coordination, and I'm there as a resource. I get them going on their homeschool, but I don't literally sit and hover over them and do their homeschool the same way I would interactively with a 5, 7, and a 9-year-old. So having those breaks for me, I look forward to them. I appreciated them. And now they're gone. And I have no guarantee if they're going to come back. So when other moms ask me like, hey, Tara, how do you do, getting enough support, getting some breaks, so you feel like you get a break as a big family mom, big family stay-at-home mom, also big family stay-at-home homeschooling mom. There's all those hats at the same time. Well, I'm going through it right now. And in the early years, I'd like, a kid or two would go over to someone's house, my mom's house usually, or, a relative's house. Usually, the grandmas, if you happen to live in, close enough proximity to them. And that's wonderful and that's great. But what do you do if for whatever reason you lose that, or you never had it to begin with, because you don't, like I said, maybe you don't live conveniently in the same neighborhood, or the relationship has completely blown apart? I mean, it happens. I'm walking through it right now. Well, okay, how much am I going to say? Just being discreet. I want to be helpful. I also want to be discreet at the same time. Well, first things first, I wanted to say that, I get it. And secondly, there's so much I could say. There's 14 different points I could bring out of this. So I'm just gonna draw out maybe 2 or 3 at the most as time permits, because it's just a short little video, right? I really could talk at length about this. So I'm going to share with you what's really kind of helped me. It hasn't kind of helped me. It definitely has helped me in this season of life, having a lot of kids at home and having 7 days a week, 365, until my husband gets home around supper time. And then we support each other through the evening, and it's go until, we have a staggered bedtime at about 7 o'clock. The littles go to bed, and 7:30, the middles go to bed. And by 8:39, the older young adults are all in bed. So it's a full day. It's a full life. And I knew when I embraced the blessing of children and said, Lord, I give you the reins of control over the size, the spacing, the timing of our family. I knew mathematically that could easily add up to a dozen kids by the time I hit my mid-40s. Well, I'm 44 in September, and we just had our 11th child. Here she's squeaking in the corner. So that being said, sometimes I think big family moms can feel like I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't even talk about, man, I wish I had a little bit more breaks, especially if you've lost them like I have. Because it's like, well, you made your bed. Now you get to lie down in it. If you've been smart like everybody else, smart, like as if it has to do with intelligence, and just, had a small family, put them all in public school, you wouldn't have to do it. Oh, come on, that's like so reductionist. Look, I'm not even going to go there right now. What has helped me is taking my fear straight to God in just a quietness of the day when I feel all that pressure rising. I literally feel it in my chest when fear starts to really rise and grip me. I physically feel it and tends to be more located in this part of my body. So I'm starting to get to know my own signals better. And then it's time for me to get alone with God. I get up in the morning a little bit earlier than I technically need to, so I can get a few things done in the quietness of the day, in the cool of the morning, and I get a few things done at the end of the day as well. And this in the middle of the day, that's why I'm talking to you. So I had to bring my fear of, oh my God. I don't say that often, but I meant it. I was literally crying out to God, oh God, how am I going to manage if I don't have any babysitting anymore? Will the Lord provide through another avenue? Will I consider exploring something I've never actually done before, which is a paid helper, like a paid daytime helper? What would that even look like? Am I comfortable with that? Suddenly I had to sort out all these things so they didn't have the convenience of a built-in family, local kind of support structure for occasional babysitting. And not just like medical grade babysitting, but just like, hey, you can have a visit with some of the kids. I mean, my kids never all go away at once. So very rarely does that happen, especially with a newborn or a nursling. I was scared. I was scared that I was not going to be okay, that it would finally all add up and I would feel pressure that I couldn't handle. So I chose to bring that to God, first of all of my fear, that I wouldn't be able to hack it, that I'd turn into a scary mom, that my home would become a taste of hell rather than a little taste of heaven. And my children, all my children, would suffer because mom was going to just kind of always be wound up so tight because she wasn't getting like a pressure valve release. And I realized I had to take that to the Lord and say, is that true? Is this the secret sauce that if big family moms don't have any kind of babysitting throughout the month for a season or a prolonged period of time, it's a guaranteed setup for a breakdown, for some kind of nervous breakdown, big family mom related, I can't take it anymore breakdown. Now listen, that kind of stuff can happen. And it's not always related to the number of children you have. There's all kinds of numbers of factors that can relate to depression, to breakdowns, to like really serious things, like all that whole other world. I'm not talking about that right now. I think you know what I mean. I was just talking about how scared I was. and I realized this was taking an unhealthy, unholy grip on my mind when I realized I was going to lose something I relied on. And you know what? Now that I'm on the other side of that fear, and I did take it to the Lord, lay it down, He showed me some stuff that it was related to, had nothing to do with my kids. It had everything to do with other things, other incidences, other people, things that have been said to me over the years, which you may have heard if you're a big family mom, like, oh, if you have all of those kids, bad things will happen. Bad things will happen to the kids. Bad things will happen to you. And that little fear, even though I rejected it, other people's fears, other people's opinions, sometimes it can still get a little hook in there. And then life circumstances as they were, when I have no more local mom, mother-in-law babysitting that I used to rely on, and it's gone. And all I had left, oh my gosh, I'm saying this out loud, but it's good to say it out loud. All I had left was me and God. And I was like, God, am I going to be okay without what I used to rely on? And He showed me that I was relying on it maybe in a not super healthy way. And again, I'm not knocking getting help, getting support, getting breaks. I'm just sharing with you from a very raw, very personal season of my life right now, in case it helps somebody who needs to hear it, that it's okay to bring your fears to God and say, I don't know if I'm going to find help really quickly. Will I be okay in the in-between? I'm trusting that God will be sufficient, that His grace will be sufficient for me in this season, because this season isn't just, people moved away. This is, there was catastrophic relationship breakdown. Oh yeah, and it turned out she was my main babysitter too. Oh yeah, and it was my mom. I'm trusting that people who actually know me and my mom probably aren't even going to watch these videos anyway. That's okay. I just want to be candid with you because it's a season. It can be really challenging in this season to trust God that I will be okay, that His grace will be sufficient for me. And I chose to train my mind, to transform myself by renewing my mind. And this is what I say when I feel the fear rising in my chest. I'm okay. And what does that mean for me? It sounds like it's not just me and my own strength. This is me saying, God knows that I'm doing this by and large on my own, 7 days a week, 365 until Dad gets home in the evening. He knows that. He brought me to it. He's going to bring me through it. I'm okay in the center of His will, that He knew that in 2022, 2 months after Corey was born, things were going to change. And I was going to experience a loss that would also be an opportunity for me to draw close to Him in a way I haven't had to before. I haven't had to trust Him for the sanity of being home with my kids, by and large, all the time, without breaks. Now, when my husband gets home, he rises to the occasion, and I thank God for him. He does the whole bedtime routine with the littles. So I do get, I almost always have the newborn with me, and I don't begrudge her. So taking my fear to God, choosing to believe, right? It's like, oh God, I believe, help my unbelief. Not my feelings. My goodness, if I'd only followed my feelings and they told me what was really going on, I would have been, I could have gone down a dark path of starting with self-pity and fear, but then maybe taking me to a place of some pretty nasty level control. And it probably would have looked like anger all the time around my children, right? Because any noise they make, any messes they make, any just being kids and alive, I could interpret that as almost like a personal offense, like, because I never get a break from you. And I didn't want to see my children as the problem, but instead an opportunity to draw closer to God. And I realized there's so much more I could talk about this circumstance. And, if you want me to unpack it a little bit more, because you're feeling like I don't have enough support in my life from my husband, from my family, from my friends. I don't have the budget for, a hired helper. What does it even look like? Who are these luxurious people who have nannies? Or I don't even want one, quite frankly, right? I want to raise my own children. If that stuff is where you're at right now, feel free to comment it below or reach out to me. There's a link to the Big Family Moms group that I am very active in and have a heart to help other big family moms who are going through it, whether you're in the early seasons of big family motherhood and you start to figure out all these kids. What does that look like? How do I do this? The head space, the heart space, the logistics. I get it because I'm walking the road. I've walked it because I have really littles and now with the middles and the teens, and I'm figuring out that whole balancing act. And so that I don't get lost in the middle. And I can also see where there's warning signs, like health warning signs or more internal signs, mentally, emotionally, if it's a good time for me to reach out for more support and trust that God will provide, right? Jehovah Jireh will provide when it looks like a desert. I'm like, there's no water. There's no babysitters. They're gone. That's it. I'm doomed. And now I just have to hold on by the strength of my own will. That's a setup. I probably have T-minus 4 weeks until I'm going to run out of the strength of my own power, and the kids will suffer because I didn't first go to God to lay out my fear and lay myself down and say, God, you're all I have. You're all I have. It's you and me alone with the kids. And I realized I was trusting and my babysitters to be my salvation and my source. And they weren't frequent babysitters. I'm talking twice a month for like a day, a sleepover here or there. This isn't like a tremendous amount of really relieving me or like entire weekends off and getaways and stuff. And just really brought me back to God. And I realized that's not all of this conversation. I do think, though, it's where it starts. And from there, reaching out for support from other big family moms who understand you, who aren't going to shame you, and can give you some practical advice of how to reach out if you're struggling because you feel like you don't get any breaks and it's easier said than done. right? When you're experiencing maybe shame from other people for having had all those kids in the big place, and your parents don't live close, your friends don't live close, or you don't have a good connection with your church or any church at all. We just changed churches. So we're starting over in so many respects, and God knew. And I'm holding on to something you'll hear me say a lot as you get to know me, is that God brought me through it. Pardon me, God brought me to it. I trust him to bring me through it without demanding that what it looks like on the other side of through is exactly how I would have done it if I was God and I was totally designing everything. So this is a new area of trust for me. I've had support, not as much support as I always wanted. It's sometimes always been weird asking for help, but I have had support. And now things have changed dramatically. So it's trusting. So if you would appreciate some more support, that's something that's really, it's where you're at. One way or the other, however you got there, you're there. Hey, you know where to find me. I'm in the Big Family Moms group, and there are hundreds upon hundreds of other women who have found a space where we can connect, we can talk, we can be real. We're not going to be shaming each other for having all these kids in the first place. And we can really support each other, even just listen and talk and share, and even give some practical advice. So I look forward to hearing, if you have an experience with this, you're like, yeah, Tara, that's me, big family mom, walk through it. Even just the solidarity of knowing you're not alone and you're not the first one or the last one who's ever been driven to her knees and realized that in the end, all she ever had was God. And that really, that is enough. That's where I began. That's where I will end. And it's a good reminder for today. So I'm going to stop here. Little Miss Cutie is not falling asleep as I was hoping she would, so I'm going to go tend to her. I'll connect with you later in the group.